How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Creepers, number 1, The Piano, by Edgar J. Hyde. Okay, that's an obvious pseudonym, but whatever. As you guys know, I go to Dollar Tree all the time, and I was in there, and I was looking through their book section when I found they had a whole set of these Creepers books. They had the first 5, and I didn't know anything about them, so I thought, hey, I like Goosebumps. These look a little bit like Goosebumps. Might as well check them out and see what they're about. And I went home and I did a little research, and I found that these were originally from the 90s, riding that Goosebumps horror wave, and this is like a new reprint of the series. I'm not even sure if this is supposed to be number 1 or not. As far as new reprints, they actually made the cover with this slime design look even more like Goosebumps, but also the old covers kind of had a more cartoony look behind them, so that is kind of strange. I think there might be a little bit of updating because they do reference the internet, but for the most part it's still like landlines and stuff. The biggest difference is I think this time around they added these illustrations. I'm not sure if they were there originally, and they're not scary stories to tell in the dark or anything, but illustrations are always a fun little bit of bonus material, and I can always appreciate them. Yeah, here's the playroom with the children's piano late at night. That's pretty cool. So, I picked this up not really knowing too much about what to expect from it, and I think it's okay. It's obviously no R.L. Stine. Stine had this magic behind him, and he was grade A in both kids' horror and humor, and they had sort of a maniacal energy behind them. This is a little flatter, and it doesn't quite land, you know? Like, the humor, the dad will have a few jokes, like the piano will play itself, and he goes, "Hey, maybe it was a trick of the light, huh?" I mean, I get, like, if you thought you saw a shadow person or something, I get self-aware horror humor, but trick of the light for the piano playing itself, that doesn't quite land. And, like, earlier in the book when they're buying the piano, does that price mean you just want to sell me the stool? Didn't quite work. It's okay, but yeah, a lot of the humor just doesn't fire. You know, the kids will kind of fight with each other a little bit. It's not too bad. They just, you know, not quite as lively as the Goosebumps kids, you know? And also that horror, that's the biggest thing. The piano playing itself is okay, but not super scary. The scariest parts were there were a few times when the kids had to go out and like investigate the piano at night in the dark, and going into that room with the haunted object there and you're alone. That's pretty cool, and I did like that. Strangely, I think another big flaw with this book is it actually spends a lot of time with the parents. You know, like there's this strangely depressing scene where the mom's going by herself to a funeral and there's not many people there, and I'm like, this is weird. You're a kid's book. You're supposed to be locked into the perspective of one of the kids, and here we are going off and doing boring adult stuff. That was probably a mistake, and I won't spoil it, but the ending of this book, it has like this explanation like, oh, this is what the ghost was trying to say. And it's revealed in this pretty cool way, and I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And then you think about it, and you're like, Ghost didn't actually do anything here. Like, when you look at the ghost goal, it didn't actually change the story, and what would have happened either with or without the ghost. And I'm like, that should have been a little tighter and more well thought out, but whatever. I guess in order to talk about this further, let's take a little bit deeper of a look at the plot. I'm not going to do any major spoilers, but let's go ahead and analyze this just a little further and talk about some specifics. We open up with the Houston family coming home from a trip. A mom and dad, Mr. and Mrs. Houston, and an older sister and a younger brother. And I will say, Like, the parents actually do have first names that are revealed. I think I first noticed them at, like, the end of the book. If we were locked in a kid's perspective, it would be mom and dad. But man, the whole book, Mr. Houston, Miss Houston. I'm like, can't we just call them mom or dad or use their first names or something? It gotta be a little old. But anyway, they're driving home from a trip. The dad needs to stretch his legs. They get out in this small town and they see a store that sells instruments. They go in and the daughter's excited because they have a piano and she's been practicing piano at school. She likes the piano, and the proprietor comes out and says, I'll give it to you for $400. The piano, the bench, and the delivery. Much like the setup for any good horror story, a deal that's too good to be true usually has something behind it. Although that being said, when we know the ending of the story, what exactly was going on here? Whatever. Anyway, they get the piano to their house. The daughter's really excited, and even though the son doesn't really know how to play, it's the cool new thing, and they start playing on it. However, one day, early in the morning, they're awakened to the sound of the piano playing by itself, very smooth and beautifully, and they think, wow, our daughter's a lot better than I thought, but they get down and find her not on the piano, but staring at the piano in terror, and they realize that it's playing itself, and they investigate. It's definitely not a player piano, so they don't really know what's up with that. But the piano will periodically play, usually this one song. It does have a B song that okay, you can play your B song, and it's the same thing over and over at random times. The big change being the tempo and the manner in which it plays. Sometimes it's more frantic and angry. And okay, yeah, so it's a haunted object story. But eventually, the mother will go to this funeral, and at the funeral, the organist will just so happen to be playing that same song, which just so happens to be written by the old nurse that helped her deliver her first baby. It's a bit of a stretch, but I guess we can always say spiritual manipulations. So we do have a bit of a trail to follow, a bit of a mystery to uncover. And again, it's a case of it leads to a cool enough thing, a cool enough reveal later on. But when you look back at the story from the ending, you realize it didn't have nearly as good and well-defined of a purpose as you may think, and the ghost really didn't change the story in any significant way. There's other stuff in here, you do get this whole bit where the daughter has a recital and they are thinking about moving to a new house. It's interesting, but it doesn't have too much filler because it is just over 100 pages in this edition. Yeah, not the scariest thing ever, not the most humorous, not the biggest and best, but I did read this through in one sitting, and I thought, yeah, it's okay. I don't know how long I'll remember it, but it's fine and has a few interesting ideas. The ending section, there's a bit with the storm, that's pretty cool. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my books playlist, where you can see me talk about some other books, including actual Goosebumps stuff. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.